Adjectives are descriptive words that describe nouns. Writers use adjectives to make writing more interesting and informative. Descriptive adjectives tell what kind. Indefinite adjectives say which one. Numerical adjectives tell how many. As you watch this story about Yellowstone National Park, listen for adjectives. The world's first national park, Yellowstone, was formed by hundreds of volcanoes that erupted eons ago. Yellowstone has brilliantly colored hot springs and powerful geysers. Scientists constantly monitor volcanic activity at Yellowstone. Hank Heisler is checking the temperature of the geyser.
My estimation is no better place on this planet to be a geologist than in Yellowstone.
Yellowstone has approximately 10,000 hot springs and 200 geysers. Many tourists visit the world's most famous geyser, Old Faithful. It erupts regularly and shoots water 150 feet into the air. The park is also known for its diverse wildlife. 60 different kinds of mammals live in the park, including numerous bison and elk. Wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone in 1995, and there are currently more than 100 gray wolves. Now that we've learned about Yellowstone National Park, let's take a closer look at how adjectives can be used to describe it. First, let's look for descriptive adjectives. Remember, descriptive adjectives answer the question, what kind? This sentence has two descriptive adjectives. The park is known for its colorful hot springs. The descriptive adjectives are colorful and hot. Colorful and hot tell us more about the springs and answer the question, what kind of springs? This sentence has a different descriptive adjective. Can you find it? Some geologists gather scientific information at Yellowstone. The descriptive adjective is scientific. Scientific describes information. There is another adjective in this sentence. Indefinite adjectives answer the question, which one? Can you find the indefinite adjective? Some describes the noun geologist and answers the question, which one? Which geologists? Some geologists. Now, let's find an adjective that answers how many. Old Faithful shoots water 150 feet into the air. Ask yourself, how many feet? 150 feet. The adjective is 150. Adjectives can help you turn a dull sentence into a more interesting sentence. How can you use adjectives to make the following sentence more interesting? Bison are animals. You could say, these furry brown bison are enormous animals. The adjectives in that sentence tell us much more about the bison. Adjectives are words that describe a noun. Descriptive adjectives tell what kind. Indefinite adjectives say which one. Numerical adjectives tell how many. Write 3 sentences about Yellowstone using adjectives. You could write about geysers, wolves, or hot springs.
Writers use different kinds of words when writing. Writers use adjectives to tell more about the person, place, or thing they are writing about. Adjectives are words that describe things. Soft, and hard are examples of adjectives. Using adjectives makes your writing more informative. To learn more about adjectives or describing words, let's look at some animals that live in the desert. Lizards have skin that protects them in the desert. Their skin blends into the color of the desert sand. A mouse has soft fur on its body. This mouse lives in a hollow cactus. It eats the seeds that fall off the cactus. There are other furry animals that live in the desert too. This furry rabbit has big ears. A turtle has a hard shell. It protects the turtle from enemies. Turtles eat fruit that grows off the cactuses. There are many birds in the desert. This bird has a long feather that grows from its head. It eats bugs that crawl on the rocks. Many animals have to hunt for their food, like the coyote. Coyotes howl at the moon to communicate with other coyotes. Let's take a closer look at some desert animals and use adjectives to describe them. Look at this sentence. Find the adjective or describing word. A mouse has soft fur. The word soft is the adjective. It tells us more about the mouse's fur. It describes what the mouse's fur feels like. Now, look at this sentence. Find the adjective or describing word. A turtle has a hard shell. The word hard is the adjective. It tells us more about the turtle's shell. Now, find the adjective in this sentence. The rabbit is small and furry. This sentence has two adjectives. The words small and furry are both adjectives. Both of these words tell us more about the rabbit. We've learned that adjectives are words that describe or tell more about a person, place, or thing. What adjectives could you use to describe yourself? Write 3 sentences telling readers all about you.
So there I was, you see, just sitting in my armchair, thinking about nouns, pronouns, verbs, things like that, when all of a sudden I looked up and I discovered it was gone. All right, Professor, now will you tell us again what it was that was gone? Why, my book of modifiers, one of the most valuable in my entire collection. Oh my, I'm so upset by all this, because modifiers, adjectives and adverbs that is, are terribly important. You see, they help us form an exact mental image of whatever we're talking about. Take adjectives, for example. They modify nouns and pronouns by giving descriptive information about them. Now, if you'll hand me that mug book, I'll show you how. First, adjectives answer the question, which? For example, the word left is an adjective in the sentence, suspect parts hair on left side. because it answers the question, on which side does the suspect part his hair? The left. Adjectives also answer the question, what kind? In the sentence, suspect was last seen wearing ridiculous costume, ridiculous tells what kind of costume the suspect wore. And so, it is an adjective. Adjectives also answer the question, how many? How many years are Fanny and Cloyd serving? The adjective 5 tells us. And adjectives answer the inquiry, what color? What color were the suspect's lips? The adjective orange provides the answer. Finally, if one asks what size, adjectives give the answers to that too. What size is the mole? The adjective large tells us. No, I'm terribly sorry. There's no one here that looks even remotely familiar. I suppose we'll have to go downtown to dig further into this deplorable state of affairs. While we're on our way, I suppose I should also mention that there is a group of adjectives called articles. The, a, and an are examples. Articles simply point out or separate one thing from another. There are also demonstrative adjectives, such as these, this, that, and those. Demonstrative adjectives, when standing alone, might be confused with pronouns. But when they appear in sentences, it's easy to tell the difference between the two. In the first sentence, the word this modifies car by answering the question, which one? This one, and so it's an adjective. In the second sentence, the word this takes the place of the noun car, and so it's a pronoun. Anyway, I'm sure you understand now why I'm so upset. All those adjectives in my book of modifiers are terribly important, because adjectives tell which one, what kind, how many, what color, and what size, not even to mention the articles and demonstratives. In addition to telling which one, what kind, how many, what color, and what size, adjectives do something else. They help us compare persons, places, things, or abstractions. For example, one might say suspect A is mean. Suspect B is meaner than A. And suspect C is the meanest one of all. As you can see, the form of the adjective changes when one compares two and when one compares three or more persons or objects. Most adjectives do change their basic form as they express what are called degrees of comparison. The first, called the positive degree, is simply the adjective itself. The positive degree is used when no comparison is being made. The second level of comparison, called the comparative degree, is used when two things or persons are being compared. Most comparative degree adjectives are formed in one of two ways. The first is by adding an er ending to the positive degree form, as in mean, meaner. The second way is by placing the words less or more in front of the positive form. Adjectives with three or more syllables, ornery as an example, almost always form their comparatives this way. Finally, we have the superlative degree. Superlative degree adjectives are used when comparing three or more persons or things. The suspect on the far right is the meanest of all three. Most superlative degree adjectives, as with comparative degree adjectives, are formed one of two possible ways. One is by adding an est ending, as in meanest. The other is by using the words least or most in front of the positive form, as in least cantankerous and most cantankerous. Most and least are normally used when the adjective has three or more syllables. No, none of these characters look familiar, and I must be getting back. And now we come to something, well, I don't quite know how to talk about it actually, but there are some adjectives that just don't follow the rules. No! Yes, it's quite true. We call them irregular adjectives because they form their comparative and superlative degrees irregularly. Two examples are many, more, and most, and little, less, and least. Of course, you expect that sort of thing from bad, worse, and worst. But from good, better, best, the only thing one can do is learn what the irregulars are and memorize their comparative and superlative forms. That way, they won't give you any trouble. Well now, does everyone understand what we mean by the degrees of comparison of adjectives?
Yes, Professor.
Good, because I've prepared a little quiz to make certain that you do. Just fill in the blanks with the comparative and superlative degrees of these 4 adjectives. Well, there you are. The only tricky one here is perfect, because if something's already perfect, it can't be made more perfect or most perfect. Adjectives such as perfect can't be compared because they already express an absolute state or quality.